Hey, what's going on, y'all? I should have had my camera adjusted before I got started, but I didn't. And now it's adjusted. Anyhow, I hope y'all doing well today. Um, Transform Your Physical Health Live is my live stream where I answer your health and fitness questions live, and I talk about stuff that's in the news or like um something I came across like on a podcast or just out there in the world somewhere. And the bit that I want to talk about, it's not much today, but I think it's something that's important to think about. So Dr. Andy Galpin is a guy who um I have heard on podcasts and looked up his information on his website and stuff here and there. He is a professor of kinesiology at California State Fullerton, and he's the co-director of what's called the Center for Sport Performance and the founder director of the Biochemistry and Molecular Exercise Physiology Laboratory. It's a lot of mouthful, but he's like a very much of a go-to expert when it comes to exercise. Like I said, sport performance, building strength and muscle and stuff like that. He's a very knowledgeable guy, and I enjoy listening to him because like I like the way that he communicates stuff about exercise, and it's very practical, and just he's just very concise with the way that he puts it. Anyhow, he said something on this episode of Diary of a CEO, a podcast I listen to sometimes, that I wanted to just kind of mention and then kind of sit on it for a little bit. So this is what he said. He was asked by the host, Stephen Bartlett, what are how does what are things that a person needs to do to be a great, a quote, great average Joe. Like, so you're just an average person, not out there trying to be an Olympian or a basketball player, football player, whatever. But what are the some like practical basic things that a person needs to do to be a great average Joe? And Dr. Galpin said the first thing he said, well, he kind of eventually said it was the number one thing, is he said, don't miss training. Just don't miss training. Now, he elaborated by saying don't miss training for large chunks of time, like months, years, basically, due to getting hurt. You need to be able to move well. So that means you need to be able to move in such a way that you don't hurt yourself where you're unable to continue to move. Because he said that's really the biggest thing. So I want to just talk about that right there because it seems it's very it from the surface level it sounds basic, but I think it says a mouthful about the importance of training, and I even just say movement um in general. Because here's the deal. One thing I've mentioned from time to time on this channel is the concept of sarcopenia. And that has to do with muscle, and then penia means loss. So it's muscle loss, just like you think about osteopenia, bone loss. Sarcopenia is muscle loss with aging. And I think once you get to about 30 years old, it it kind of starts, and then with every decade it can accelerate unless you are active, unless you are moving, and then also specifically training. So if you um for example, hurt yourself doing some sort of activity, whether it be a sports activity or you just kind of just doing some regular activity, or you become incapacitated, maybe back pain, or you suffer like some sort of other health issue that makes you have to be somewhat immobile for a while. Or say maybe you don't hurt yourself, but you just out of habit and life change become physically inactive, then these things will leave you totally open to the effects of natural loss of muscle, and I even say natural loss of bone with time. And then on top of that, you have whatever other issues I believe that will start to come into play that can make it even harder for you to start moving again. Stuff like a decrease in flexibility and mobility, things like that. Because, like for example, you figure even if you don't hurt yourself, if you're sitting down all day and you do that for 40 years, like a typical career, well, I don't say a typical career, 30 to 40 years, I guess, then that will, for example, shorten your hip flexors, the muscles on the inside of your thighs. It'll shorten your hamstrings, which are the muscles behind your thighs, and um, that can leave you that in and of itself can start to make it harder for you to move. You start to lose strength, especially you start avoiding doing different activities because it's easier to do easier stuff. For example, not taking stairs anymore, or if you have an option to walk versus doing some sort of other convenient thing, you always do the more convenient thing. These things weaken you over time and leave you open to those natural losses of muscle and bone. So, whether it be for because of injury, or like I say, your lifestyle, or maybe you've gained weight and it's kind of starting to like bear on your knees and things like that. Either way, like he was saying, he said, don't miss training for big chunks of time due to injury or whatever the case may be, because that in and of itself can cause your aging experience to deteriorate significantly. So I think the key to what he was saying is, because he mentioned the phrase move well. The key to what he was saying is being able to move properly, being able to, so like, you know, of course, being strong enough and being quick enough, so to speak, having good flexibility, having good balance. Balance is incredibly important. I think that's something that I may start to focus a bit more on myself, because balance is one of those things that we don't tend to talk about as much as we talk about the basic muscle building, cardio, stuff like that. But think about it. Balance is one of those things that helps you to keep from falling. If you were to wobble and get off balance, then your ability to get back there without falling is actually very, very important. You don't think about it when, of course, you're a little kid or whenever you're a young adult or an adult, but then you start to see how important that is later on. So, like, literally to be able to train stuff like your balance, just to kind of give like a very just brief entrance into that. But I'm gonna start studying more. You know, you would have to intentionally train balance. So, for example, like I said, we take those things for granted when we're younger because it's just so easy to it's pretty easy to not fall because of your strength and all that kind of stuff. But like, for example, you might practice walking a straight line, drawing like a chalk line on the ground, or and I've demonstrated this in a video probably within the past 2 or 3 months, drawing a line on the ground or finding some sort of line on the ground and just intentionally walking down that way, feeling yourself kind of wobble. Now, if your balance is pretty bad, then you probably want to be close to a wall or something. But my point is, to improve balance, you have to specifically train balance. Like you literally have to go through it, and you have to experience the struggle, so to speak, the wobble and everything. And but with repetition, you'll get better with that over time. But anyway, being able to move well in normal everyday life will help to ensure that you don't have long blocks of missing training, or I'll add on to what he said, missing movement. Because just like you have the saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. And then you also have this another saying that I probably came across about 10 years ago, saying that you don't get you don't stop playing in the playground because you get older. You get older because you stop playing in the playground. In other words, never stop doing never stop doing the thing. Just continue doing stuff. That's why you can look and see many stories like on YouTube or elsewhere online of older people who are doing seemingly unimaginable things. People who are continuing to play tennis into their, 60s, 70s, 80s, people who are bodybuilding, people who are, you know, I don't know, doing all kind of stuff that we just like, well, I didn't know you could do that then, but it's because of how we've tended to adopt as like essentially like a model for aging, which is not really the way it has to be. So, anyhow, I think these are good things to think about. Again, us making sure that we move in such a way that we can keep ourselves from getting injured. But then also, like I say, if it's not injury that's the case, intentionally moving, making yourself active just so that you're not so subject to sarcopenia, so subject to osteopenia. Now, and I say this too, I'm about to be done here. Osteopenia, which is natural bone loss with age, the main thing you have to keep in mind with osteopenia is that it's weight bearing exercises that tend to help with that. So, for example, a lot of times osteopenia is a big concern because if you lose, significant amount of bone, you fall, you break a hip, that can be very significant, like as far as like causing your health to deteriorate, especially with you being older. Um, but like even just walking helps with that because literally it's like you putting the weight of yourself on those big bones, the femur bone and all that kind of stuff, bones rather, then that actually helps you to continue to have to build bone density because your bone will lay down more bone tissue whenever there's weight on it. And then also you might even if you're like good with like regular walking, you might even start doing other things like more weight bearing, like go to the gym and do stuff like squats and lunges, doing wearing a weight vest or like a rucking sack backpack or something like that with weight or something like that. Different things that will increase the weight that you're bearing to help you to build even better bone tissue. Of course, you're gonna build some muscle too, but these are the things that we want to consider when we age. So like working out and moving and stuff like that, it's not all about looking good, which, I don't have any issue with that. But we have every ability to continue to move well as we get older. And, you can expect that if you actually are very intentional about it. Period. And I don't know about you, but that's what I'm doing. I very much desire to be as mobile, if not more, as I when I get older. Um, because there's just different things I want to do. So I don't really have this image in my mind of like, oh yeah, when I get older, I'm not gonna be doing this or whatever. I'm still gonna be jumping, I'm still gonna be running, sprinting rather. I'm gonna still be doing my calisthenics and stuff like I do every day or most days. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to link to this podcast where Dr. Galpin was being interviewed so you can listen to it if you would like. Um, I like listening to some of these different kind of podcasts, listen to professionals or people who even kind of talk about this stuff at like a high edge or people who even kind of talk about this stuff at like a high education level. Um, because some of those nitty gritty details sometimes can be helpful. I don't think it's always necessary to go that granular, but at the same time, it helps. It's entertaining for me, and it helps me to kind of understand things sometimes a little more. But stay active. Don't miss training. Don't miss large blocks of training. Still keep on doing something. Okay. All right. I'm gonna let y'all go. I hope y'all have a great day. Stay positive. Stay empowered. Okay. And I hope to see you tomorrow morning. Lord, we'll see if I do a live tomorrow morning. Um, I should be able to. All right, y'all take care. Oh, and thanks for dropping in anyway, because I see a few of y'all hung around. So I appreciate y'all. Take care.